My name is Jerry Adams, and until recently I was quite happy with my life. Married to Betsy for almost 28 years. We are both 55 years old and have a grown daughter, Amy, who is married to Jim, a good man. They have been married for 3 years and are expecting their first child. A quick history lesson about Betsy and me. We met in college and dated, but we were both working hard on our degrees and were never particularly close. We started dating and seemed to discover that we were both very compatible. 18 months later we were married, and 2 years later we were blessed with the birth of Amy. She was a wonderful daughter and very smart. Betsy and I have a good job. She has been teaching for 25 years and I work in the finance department of a large company. We mainly work for the government and I control costs and follow all the rules that are part of all government projects. I have a staff of 4 people and have been in business for 31 years. This story begins in the summer when my wife is not working, and once a month she and 3 or 4 regular girlfriends get together for dinner or sometimes just meet at one of their houses. Most meetings are just a chance for them to have fun. Sometimes they would go to a bar, listen to music, and if invited, dance. I never questioned what was going on because my wife is rarely late or drinks too much. It started about 3 years ago. Around the same time, Betsy and I became empty nesters. We both loved our daughter very much, and I thought we could rekindle our romance a little. As we get older, we are no longer as sexually active as we used to be. We both still go out to dinner at least once a week, sometimes alone and sometimes with another couple. It seemed to me that we were content and happy in our relationship. At least that's what I thought. I headed home that evening, stopping for lunch with my friend Harold. He and I sometimes have dinner together when the wives get together. I had already finished, was on my way home, and saw cars, so I parked on the corner and walked home. As I walked through the side door leading to the back porch, I heard raucous laughter and thought they must have had a few bottles of wine. I laughed and heard Stephanie, Betsy's closest friend, say that she loved her husband Sam, but he was old and overweight and could barely stand up. She says that sometimes she just needs a little love and she has a good vibrator and she can enjoy herself and not have to indulge her husband. She continued to say that the few times he gets difficult, he holds on for about a minute, so she told the others that his nickname was now Minuteman. Everyone laughed. I was ashamed of Sam because he was at our house and was a good person. Yes, he is a little overweight, but Stephanie was not exactly small herself, in general. She was pleasant, but I'd never heard her talk about her husband like that before. I was surprised and felt sorry for Sam. I didn't enter the room because I wanted to hear what others were saying. Then Maggie spoke up and said that her husband, Harold, was completely different. He's okay with sex and was interested, but she's not very happy with his boyfriend's size. I can barely feel it, and after 3 kids I kind of need something more. Everyone else laughed and asked how big it was. She said, "It's about 4 inches. Then Stephanie said, "No, how hard and big is he?" Maggie laughed and said, "It's hard." "We should call him Teeny Weeny," Stephanie said. Everyone exploded, and Stephanie told Maggie that she could borrow her vibrator anytime she wanted. And she added, "When it gets cold, will he be able to find this little thing?" I stood there and was shocked that all women really say something very personal about their husbands. Harold is a good friend, and I felt terribly sorry for him. While they all laughed, I was glad that my wife was silent. At least I had a wife who had some respect. Then it was Erica's turn. I hardly knew her husband, Ollie, but he seemed nice to me. She said she was going through menopause and wasn't interested, but her husband was still horny. Therefore, sometimes he simply begged to satisfy himself in front of her, and she helped him with this. I like to make him act like a teenager, and I laugh at him when he gets excited and tease him when he does. I call him the blue ball boy. All the women laughed, and I heard my wife laugh. It was her turn. "Well, lady, admit it. We're all married to older guys, and they're pretty pathetic." Stephanie, of course, had to make a remark. "Betsy, what should we call Jerry? What's his nickname?" I was deathly quiet and waited to hear her. She giggled and said, "I think a boner sounds good." Everyone laughed. I was stunned. In all these years, my wife has never said anything to me. I never forced myself, and sometimes, when she was tired, I left her alone and just kissed her. I never remember being intrusive. Did she just say that, or is it true? I remembered the times when our sex was sometimes once every 2 weeks or less, when she was going through menopause. I never heard her complain about me. I just stood there, my heart pounding. I was angry and hurt and didn't know what to do. Then Stephanie, the apparent ringleader, said, "We girls are bad too. We should start going to this new club and let some young guys dance with us. If our guys aren't doing it for us, we can at least give the guys at the club some liberties." The others laughed and said it was a good idea. Now I was wondering what was going on in the bar. Most of the time, Betsy came home and wasn't drunk or excited, and usually just took a quick shower and went to bed. Most of the time, I was still awake. One day I asked how she was doing, whether she was dancing or not, and whether she was a good dancer, and she laughed and said, "I have something better at home." What nonsense. Now I wondered if she was being groped, but I didn't notice anything. As I stood outside the door, they all clinked their glasses and said that, yes, they should come out more often. I just stood there. Everyone continued to laugh and drink. Erica made a toast. For the Minuteman, the little weenie, the boy with the blue balls, and the boy with the boner. Everyone raised a toast. I felt disgusted. Do they do this every time they get together? Finally, Erica said, "You know that we are all married, and we should be happy that they are all good fathers, breadwinners, and even if they have shortcomings, they are ours." I was hoping sanity had returned, but apparently not. Yes, they were good fathers, but sometimes we need more. Just trying out someone young once would be fun. Then there was silence and no one said anything. It was already late, and Erica said, "We have to go back to the old boys again." I climbed out the back door and walked to my car before anyone left. I was so angry that I knew I had to calm down before I got home. I drove around the area and stopped at a park. I decided to walk a little to calm my anger. I remembered what I heard. I thought all the women were sweet and kind, and it shocked me. Was I really in such bad shape? I'd been cycling a bit and had a few pounds more than I needed, but I was in better shape than any of the women. I wasn't handsome, but I wasn't a hunk either. They were all a bit heavy, and although they were attractive, I didn't expect to see a lot of young guys chasing them. I wondered, should I tell my husband what I heard? Should I sneak out and see them next time they go to the bar? The more I thought about it, the more I realized that I loved Betsy. But the amount of disrespect I heard tonight seriously angered and hurt me. Is she so ignorant as to think it doesn't hurt? How would she feel if I said disrespectful things about her to her friends' husbands? It was almost dark, and I went home. When I pulled into the driveway, everyone had already left. I walked through the back door and entered the kitchen. Betsy was finishing cleaning. She turned around when I came in and said, "Hello, dear. How was your day?" I looked at her as if I didn't recognize this woman. I wanted to scold her, but I stood there without saying a word. "Honey, what happened? You look upset." "I just had a bad day and I'm very tired." "I thought you were going to dinner with Harold." "What's happened?" "Harold is fine. I just had a bad day." "My head is pounding. I think I'll take a shower and then read a little and go to bed." Betsy rushed to me and hugged me. I stood limp and tired. She kissed me on the cheek. I pulled away and walked away. "Do you need something? How can I help?" "No, I'm fine. Just very tired." I took a shower and jumped into bed. She looked into our bedroom and saw me reading. "Honey, if I can help, let me know. I love you." I simply nodded. I took a few sleeping pills and finally fell asleep. I remember Betsy crawling up to me to hug me, but I pretended to be asleep. She rolled over and fell asleep. On Saturday morning, I woke up early and decided to get on my bike early. Betsy was sleeping, so I went out and wanted to ride for about an hour. I usually only rode for 30 minutes, and that was enough to keep me going, but now I decided I wanted to start building up my endurance. When I returned, Betsy was already having breakfast. I started sweating and went back to the shower. "Jerry, I'll make you breakfast. What do you want?" "I'm going shopping with Amy to look for maternity clothes." "Don't worry about me. I'll just eat a bagel and drink coffee." "Have a good time." When I went down to breakfast, she had already left. I was happy that she left. Now I could calmly think about what to do. I was angry when I realized that I needed to learn more about going to the bar. One of my assistants was a young 32-year-old Dan, who worked for me for about 5 years. As far as I remember, my wife only met him once. Maybe he could watch her without arousing suspicion. We had a landline, and I kept thinking about turning it off and just using our cell phones. I was going to monitor the home phone as well. Maybe I can pick up something to keep track of calls. I spent the entire day going through her emails since she never kept them a secret. I looked at about 2 years of activity and didn't find anything suspicious. I kept wondering why she didn't delete the old letters. Now I was glad she didn't. At about 5 o'clock, I heard her car drive up to the house. She stormed into the room and said they had a great day finding things for Amy. I was happy because I love our daughter very much, and she and her husband could use our help. Betsy talked a mile a minute, and I just sat there, nodding. Finally, she said that she would eat some leftovers from last night's get-together for dinner. This brought me back to reality, and I became angry again. I tried not to show it, but she noticed that I was silent at dinner. "Honey, can you tell me what's bothering you?" "I'm fine, it's work, and I hope everything will be resolved soon." She kissed me as I collected the dishes and started clearing the table. I realized a long time ago that Betsy is a much better cook, but at least I can clean. She drank some wine and sat at the table while I washed the dishes. "Betsy, are you happy?" "What does happy mean?" "Certainly, what about you?" "Yes, but sometimes you seem distant. Are you having a good time with your girlfriends?" This was her chance to say something like, "Yeah, I like going out with my friends. We have a lot of fun because we're all about the same age and have the same interests." "When you go to listen to music, do you dance with other guys?" She suddenly looked up with a laugh. "Sometimes people invite me to dance, and yes, they do. It's innocent, and I never let them get too close. Are you jealous?" "Younger guys, do you ever feel a little nervous?" "Well, Jerry, I think you're jealous. You don't have to worry about it, darling. I'm curious because 4 or 5 attractive women sitting together can attract a lot of men. Do you slow dance with them when they ask?" "Jerry, what's going on? You know that I will never let anyone get too close. Do other girls dance too? If any of them ever do anything you find inappropriate, will you tell me?" Betsy looked at me strangely and said, "Jerry, I don't think any of the ladies will do anything bad. You know them all. They would never do that." I thought and said, "I have an idea. Why don't we have a picnic and invite them and their husbands?" She just shrugged and said, "I think they're all busy." "Okay, I was just asking. When will you girls get together again?" "Jerry, I wanted to talk to you about this. Stephanie has a house on a lake and thought we could all go there next weekend." "Stephanie only meant wives. You're all always too busy." I turned and looked at her. "When were you going to tell me?" "I wanted to mention this last night, but you weren't feeling well. When will you leave?" "We were going to leave on Friday morning and return on Monday evening, just on the 4th of July. We usually have a party on the 4th. Are you going to miss the party?" "No, I'll be back in time for the fireworks." "You'll miss everything else. Amy and Jim usually come to visit us." Betsy looked at me and realized that I was disappointed. "Jerry, I will definitely make amends when I get home. Sometimes us girls just need a break." "I understand." Then I left, went to my office and started to think that she rarely leaves. And now, after hearing all the comments from the girls about how they need something extra, I started having bad doubts. I wondered what was really going on. Later, Betsy entered the office. "Jerry, you're not angry with me, are you?" "No. I just want you to tell me everything. By the way, who's coming?" "Stephanie, Maggie, Erica, and Teresa. She works with Stephanie and is her good friend." I didn't know Teresa, but I wanted to know more about her. "Teresa is the same age. And is she married?" "I think she's about our age, but she's divorced." That was great. My wife wants to run away for a few days to have fun with some women, and I have no idea what's going on. "It's strange that you suddenly wanted to spend more time with your friends. I was hoping that we could spend some time together since I also have a day off on Monday." "That's very nice, dear. But this is the only time we can all get together. I promise that you and I can do some more before the end of the summer. As the week went by, I could tell my wife was excited about the upcoming trip. I was angry. I was going to try again and see her reaction. Honey, how about I join you on Friday evening and leave on Monday morning? You will still have some time away from your husbands, but we can also spend some time together. Jerry, for God's sake, what's wrong with you? We just need some girls-only time. Okay, you have time, but you won't like it if I want to go golfing with the guys for the weekend. That's because it's too expensive, and I don't like being alone. Please, honey, try to understand that you are acting like a child. Well, this was my last attempt. Maybe she's right. Girls need time alone. I had never worried about Betsy before, but the conversation I heard made me even more worried. I was going to try to find out more. I took her phone while she was in the shower and tried to open it. She protected him. She had never locked her phone before. I had to come up with a plan. She and I had almost identical phones. So I took her phone to work and left mine. Dan was our IT expert, and I asked him if he could help me get to her phone. He worked on it for a while, and I gave him all the possible password combinations. Finally, he found the right combination, and it was open. I looked through her messages, trying to find something I could use. I found a wealth of information. Dan tried to link her messages to my home email. I told him I really appreciated it, and he was happy to help. It appears that Stephanie was the ringleader of this group. First, they would go to her cabin, and they planned to visit some guests, and Teresa was the event planner. The more I read, the angrier I became. My dear wife was very excited. Only Maggie thought it was a bad idea, writing, "If the husbands find out, they will be furious." Stephanie just shut her down and said it would be fun, and if no one found out, no harm would come of it. My dear wife agreed. Erica said she was so excited she couldn't wait. I checked as many emails as I could. When I returned home, my wife asked if I had accidentally taken her phone. I told her yes. She blushed and said, "Why did you take my damn phone? It's private and you shouldn't look at it. Damn you, Jerry." I looked at her as if she had gone crazy. I realized that it was your phone, and since you recently locked it, I couldn't read it. Obviously, you are doing some personal things that you don't want your husband to see. What the hell is going on, Betsy? Nothing. I just don't like it when you look at my personal things. Betsy, do you have something to hide? Of course not. On Tuesday night, I slept fitfully. I decided to call my daughter and see if she knew anything. My wife and Amy talked almost every day. I called her and asked if her mother had told her about her escape. Amy said yes and seemed delighted. I asked if she had any details. Everything is fine? It's okay. She just seems a little different. Maybe it's because the baby is coming soon that she's very excited. Honey, you're right. We both can't wait. Betsy came home and immediately realized that I was unhappy. Honey, you know that I love you, right? It's a simple escape, and I'll be very glad to see you when I get back on Monday. I smiled and said, I hope so. On Thursday, I got up early and went to work. I decided to check her messages. Stephanie kept telling the girls that it would be so much fun, but she didn't say what they were going to do. Teresa was the only one who arranged everything. I went to talk to Dan again and showed him some of the emails. I was curious if there was any way to access the other emails. Dan looked at the letter and said to me, "Who is Teresa?" "I don't know, someone who works with Stephanie." A wide smile appeared on his face. "She is my sister. She just had a bachelorette party for a friend who is getting married, and she told me that this woman at work wants to have a stripper for some of her friends. Teresa told her she could order one for them, but for what occasion? Her friend just told her it's a bachelorette party for the weekend." Dan must have noticed how pale I was. "Jerry, don't worry. I'll figure it out." Now I knew what was going on, and this explained everything. My wife was going to have a stripper, and now I wanted to know how far it would go. It's one thing to go to a strip club, but it's another thing entirely to go to a private party. I continued to read Betsy's messages and emails. Betsy mentioned that I was starting to get angry. Stephanie wrote, "Tell the boner after this weekend that he better be nicer to you because you won't need him if he misbehaves." This made me so angry that I was ready to hit the bitch. I urgently developed a plan. Amy called me after lunch and said she was talking to her mom. She said she just needed to leave. Amy asked her what was so important about this weekend that she would miss her family's 4th of July. Betsy said she just needed to be with the girls and not worry. Amy also told her that she thought I was feeling depressed and maybe she should be around more. Her mother told her that she needed this to happen and she would make it up to me when she returned home. On Thursday, I decided to call all the husbands. First, I called Harold and asked if he had noticed that Maggie was acting strange. He said she seemed worried. He thought she might just be feeling under the weather, but she was excited about the weekend. Dan called me back and spoke with his sister Teresa. She contacted a stripper who was performing at the party. This was the same stripper that Stephanie hired. I called the husbands and asked them to meet me on Friday night, but not to mention this to their wives. Sam and Ollie didn't know me that well and said they just wanted to relax at home alone. Then I told them that they might want to know more about what their wives were going to do. It was very important for their marriage. Finally, everyone agreed. I also told them to sneak peeks into their wives' emails or messages to see what they were doing. They said they couldn't get into cell phones. Friday morning, I woke up at 5:30. Betsy was sleeping, and I went and checked her bags to see what she had packed. I didn't find anything unusual. I kept checking her emails and messages. Stephanie said she really wanted to see what Teresa had done, but she refused to tell the others what it was. Betsy was supposed to leave at 8. The trip only took about 2 hours, but they wanted to leave early and lie in the sun as soon as possible. I took the day off, but she didn't know about it. I was having breakfast and finally heard the shower. I usually leave around 8:30. I decided to leave early and leave a note saying I had an early appointment. Dear Betsy, I hope you have a great time with your friends. I know that you are unhappy, and I think the reason is that you have closed yourself off from me. I'm sorry that I don't make you happy anymore, but I want you to stay here so we can connect again. I've been feeling really sad lately and I wanted to be close to you because you always made me feel special. I have loved you for over 28 years. I wish you nothing but happiness in the future. Your loving husband, Jerry. She began to worry when Stephanie texted that she would pick her up at 8. Betsy wrote back, Stephanie, something is wrong with Jerry. I'm afraid I won't be able to leave until I talk to him. Betsy, for God's sake, he's a big boy and he's probably sulking about being left alone for the weekend. I bet the boner is just moping. Betsy wrote, Damn, Stephanie, this is not funny and I'm wondering if he thinks there's something going on. I've been treating him poorly lately. I need to contact him. Okay, I'll call Harold and see what he can find. He also left early in the morning. The women corresponded and realized that it was impossible to contact all their husbands. Stephanie texted them all and told them to get ready. We're all going away for the weekend. No excuses. The guys will be fine. I worked on the plan for several days. Now it's up to the men. Maybe they really were old, fat, lustful, and lazy, as their wives said. It's not too late to save marriages or at least stop wives from ending them. Harold and I talked for a bit when Ollie and Sam showed up. Everyone looked worried, and I told them that's how it should be. The reason I invited you all here was because I have reason to believe that our wives will break our wedding vows this weekend. Can you live with this? I told them the whole story of how I heard them talking about each of them and how I hacked my wife's cell phone and found out what was going to happen, or at least what they were going to do. Sam, Ollie, and Harold were furious. Suddenly, they fell silent. I proposed my plan. We'll get up on Saturday, go to the cabin, wait for the guests to arrive, and see what happens. We discussed it and decided not to respond to any emails, phone calls, or messages. Let's leave women in the dark. It would be difficult, but we had to make them suspicious. We talked until late at night and agreed to meet again at 9 a.m. I had a restless night. I kept checking my phone and my wife texted me about 20 times. At first she was worried, but then she got angry and called me a spoiled brat for trying to ruin her weekend with the girls. I went to bed and tried to sleep. Finally, I dozed off. In the morning, I called my daughter, and she told me that her mother called and was very worried. Amy told her that they invited her father because her mother wanted to run away and play with the girls. Betsy hung up. I checked our account, as I often do. I usually handle most of the accounts. I noticed that Betsy withdrew $500 for the trip. Now I knew what she was up to. I told the guys what was going on, and told them to check their accounts. They did so, and discovered that all the ladies had withdrawn large sums of money. Sam, Ollie, and Harold were very embarrassed and angry at the disrespect each of the wives showed them. I didn't want them to become violent, but I told them to save their disappointment for when we encountered them. The time something was going to happen was 8 o'clock, so we had to be there by 7 hours and not let the girls know. Teresa kept me updated after my conversation with Dan. Stephanie went to Teresa to see if she knew a good stripper for a girls' night out. Teresa actually knew the stripper who worked with her. I conveyed this information to my husband, who became even more angry. In fact, she took several pictures of a stripper she knew and gave them to Stephanie. She told me that Stephanie almost wet her pants. The stripper was in his late 30s, tall, handsome, and very well built. His manhood was large, and Teresa said that was what Stephanie wanted. Stephanie also asked if the man would do different things. For example, Teresa asked. Stephanie mentioned that they were all married to a bunch of old farts and wanted to see what a hot young man could do for 4 women. When Teresa told me about this, I began to seethe. Teresa told me that the others didn't know, but Stephanie hinted that it would be sexy and everyone would enjoy it. The men spat fire as we continued our conversation. Luckily, we were able to stop it. But our future with our wives looked bleak. I texted Teresa while we were close to see if everything was ready. She called me back a few minutes later when she went outside. Teresa, we are very grateful to you for your help. You've opened our eyes, and maybe it will save a marriage or two. I don't know. Jerry, I had a loser husband who cheated on me. And when Dan mentioned your situation and found out that I was working with Stephanie, I was happy to help. Stephanie told the others that a stripper was coming? I really want to know the truth, especially how my wife reacted. I could tell Teresa didn't want to tell me, but she finally did. Jerry, I think your wife is at the mercy of Stephanie and allows her to talk her into doing things she wouldn't normally do. Teresa, please tell me the truth. Did anyone admit to doing something when they went to the bar? It's hard to say, but they mentioned that some guys kissed them and ran their hands over them, but no one had sex. As for your wife, she said that one guy took her hand and held it on his hard-on, and she said it was very big. Then she removed her hand and did nothing else. I see. They know what will happen? Stephanie told them that if we like a big man's instrument, then wait until we all see and feel it, and then in action. He's going to entertain us all, and maybe we can help him with that. I have to go. They think I'm talking to a stripper. Jerry, what she said and did wasn't that bad. I hope you understand that Stephanie is the bad one. Thank you, Teresa. Without you, we would all be ignorant cuckolds. Bye. When I told them what she said, they got angry. We were already close to the hut. We stopped, and I was the representative and was going to tell the wives what we had decided. I texted Teresa that we would be there in 10 minutes. She answered, "Fine. They are just finishing dinner." It was 7:30 p.m. The hut is located on a small hill overlooking a beautiful lake. Sam told me it has been in his family for 3 generations. The cabin was rustic, but nice, and the view was spectacular. The nearest neighbor was half a mile away. We walked down the dirt road and stopped a few hundred yards behind. We got out and headed towards the hut. We heard women talking. They must have been standing on the back porch of the cabin, looking out over the lake. Sam opened the front door and we all went inside. The women had not yet seen us. They were sipping wine and talking. Sam opened the back door and the conversation stopped. All the wives turned pale. "Hi," Sam said and smiled, and they all stood stunned. Finally, Stephanie spoke up. "Sam, what the hell are you doing here?" "It's a girls' weekend. We were planning to go somewhere. Before you go, come into the house. I want you to meet my friends. Ladies, I'd like to introduce you to Blue Ball Boy, Tiny Weenie Boy, Boner Boy, and of course, Minute Man. Is that right, bitch?" he asked, turning to his wife. Stephanie was speechless, which was wonderful. I spoke next. "Please sit down and relax. We need to discuss something." Betsy started to say something, but I cut her off. "No!" She sat down and cried. Maggie looked like she'd seen a ghost, and Erica had PTSD. We want to discuss something first, and then you can talk. I turned to Teresa and said, "Wow, you must be Teresa. You are wonderful. My wife says you are the same age as her. How old are you?" Teresa feigned surprise and said, "I'm 34. Obviously, my wife is either blind or lying." "Right, hun." I winked. The women looked very nervous as it was about 7:50 and thought a stripper was coming and looked at their watches. Erica finally found her voice and said, "Let's all go somewhere to eat." I laughed. "Nice try, Erica. I think the stripper should be here any minute. You know, the one with the big tool that you've all been waiting for." My wife started crying, and Maggie was already crying. Harold couldn't hold back any longer. "Maggie, you fallen woman. How could you humiliate me in front of your friends and discuss my size? I'll buy you a baseball bat and it will help make you happy." Ollie was next. "Erica, you are so special. I've loved you for many years, and now all I see is betrayal on your part. Thank you for telling others that I need you. I don't just want sex. I want you. Well, not anymore. You speak of me as a groveling, submissive weakling. Well, fuck you." Then Sam added, "Stephanie, you're disgusting. Most of these women's actions were triggered by your own self-esteem issues. You were the instigator of almost everything that happened. I thought I loved you, but you made it impossible. After our divorce, you can continue to live your life as an old fallen woman looking for larger sizes in men. By the way, your ass does look big in those pants. And honestly, if you get any bigger, they should tie ropes to you so you can march in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. Finally, my dear Betsy, you also managed to burn bridges behind you. You lied and deliberately hurt me for fun. You won't find me so disgusting when I have a boner in the future because you will never see, feel, or touch it. I'm sorry that I loved you for 28 years and found you attractive. Maybe you'll go back to the bar and feel some guys' boners. Apparently you like it. By the way, there won't be a stripper. We stopped that as soon as we found out about it. Don't worry how we found out, but we did it. Honey, I hope that the $500 you took out of our account you can use to find somewhere else to live. Or you can go and look for a stripper. Well, I've had enough. Happy life." The ladies followed us out into the street and tried to explain something, but heard nothing. Before leaving, we let the air out of 2 tires on Stephanie's car. She wouldn't be able to find someone to fix it until tomorrow or later since it was a holiday weekend. Teresa had already left while we were talking with our wives. We all returned home. My wife kept calling and emailing. All the messages were bullshit. She wrote that she was very sorry, that it was all a big joke. In one voice message that I listened to, she said, "Jerry, I'm very sorry, but all the women were joking. We understand that this was offensive. I would never have sex with anyone else. It was purely entertainment, and I was wrong for not telling you about it in advance. I love you very much, and I can never replace you." I didn't answer. I went to my daughter Amy's house and had a nice picnic with them. I told her that her mother hired a stripper for their entertainment, and I don't trust her. She was upset and shocked that her mother did this. When her mother called her, she asked, "Did you like the stripper?" Her mother said it was a joke, and that she should never talk about it. Our wonderful wives were able to return home on July 4th. I've already met Amy and Jim. Finally, Betsy joined us. "Jerry, Amy and Jim, I'm so sorry for what I did, and I want you to know that I love you very much and will do everything in my power to make it better for us." Amy told her, "Mom, I'm very disappointed, and I can't believe you think this is acceptable. I haven't seen a stripper since I was in college." "Really?" Jim said. "Perhaps you should tell me about this." I didn't know this about my wife. "Jim, this was before I met you, and we were a bunch of young girls, not old ladies like my mother." Betsy cried and went home. I got home after the fireworks, and apparently Betsy was so tired that she went to bed. This was fine with me because I moved my clothes into Amy's old room. The next morning I had to go to work, and I was out the door before Betsy left the room. At the office, Dan asked how it went. "It was difficult, but I'm glad we were at least able to prevent more damage," I answered. "Do you think you can save your marriage?" "I hope so, but I'm not sure. I still love that bitch." Betsy actually wrote to me and asked when I would be home and that she was going to make me dinner. We really need to talk. I told her, be home at the usual time. I entered the house and everything around me smelled nice. She came up to me and said, I missed you and I'm sorry about everything. Could we talk about this after dinner? Certainly. Dinner was quiet, but the food was good. I love her cooking. When it was all over, she asked permission to go into the living room and brought dessert and wine. I thought, she's trying to get the whole court press here. Jerry, I'm sorry about the weekend. We never had any intention of doing anything with a stripper. I didn't even know about it until we arrived. Betsy, when did you find out about this? Why didn't you refuse or at least tell Stephanie that this was wrong? I thought about it, but she planned everything and it was her cabin, so we all felt like she was in charge. Also, tell me more about those times you went to the bar. How many male friends have you already groped and how many have you been groped? No, I was not groped, and I did not feel. This didn't happen. Well, according to one of your friends, a guy put your hand on his boyfriend, and you said he was huge. It is not true. He may have accidentally touched me, but I never felt it or played with any guy. I've been thinking a lot in the last 2 weeks, and I'm very unhappy. As you know, you didn't care when I was hurt, and your disrespect is disgusting. Your conversations sound like sluts talking about their clients, not about the husbands you are supposed to love. Where did this come from? Do you always say bad things about us? Honey, this is girl talk, and we just say different things, and most of them are embellished. I know it sounded rude, but we were drinking and being stupid. How would you feel if we husbands talked about personal things and laughed at you women? Would any of you be called fat? You'll be furious, and you know it. This was unacceptable and disrespectful. I'm so sorry, Jerry. It was wrong, and we shouldn't have done this or planned a girls' weekend. I really don't know why Stephanie wanted to do this. I know why. She doesn't respect her husband, and she convinced you all to do the same. Jerry, it's not true. I've never loved anyone as much as you. Please, I promise to make amends, and I will do so. Nobody means more to me than you. Okay, we'll see, but first you have to prove it to me. I moved all my things into Amy's old room. It's still quite cozy. I want you to see a psychologist. Besides, my boner won't bother you. I just didn't think our marriage was so bad and you were so unhappy. I love you, and I wonder where you lost respect for me. You make me seem like a lustful old man, rude and disgusting. Am I really that bad? Honey, I love you, and you're not disgusting. I made a stupid mistake and took you for granted. I was wrong. I don't think I need counseling. Let's put it this way. You let Stephanie tell you what to do, and I worry about her influence on all you women. This is why I think counseling is necessary. She was shocked and said she would do what I wanted. I could tell she didn't agree with me, but I felt like she needed it. I told her I would go with her if it would help, but she needed to find someone to help her. All the husbands decided that the women were right about one thing. We needed to get in shape. We went to the gym and worked on ourselves relentlessly. I gained strength and felt better, and my daughter thought I was handsome now. As if this really matters to a 56-year-old man, I thought. This is the situation. 2 marriages are in the counseling stage, and 1 is almost finished. Stephanie and Sam are about to get divorced. Stephanie left and went to live with her sister in another state. Sam was a little sad, but he started dating a little. Nobody cared about Stephanie. Erica and Ollie have had counseling and are trying to get back to where they were before the intervention. Erica is more worried about her husband, and Ollie has become more assertive. He wants to be damn sure that no one thinks he's submissive. I think they will succeed. Maggie and Harold, well, she was the only one who thought that what they were planning would be a problem. She tells everyone how much her husband means to her. She lets everyone know that he really is the hottest lover since Casanova. I think my best friend Harold got over his embarrassment. This, of course, leaves me. We still live in the same house, and Betsy is still in counseling. Technically, we are married, but I have a new love in my life. My beautiful granddaughter, Brittany. At times, Betsy does seem remorseful, but who knows? Amy wants me to give her mother a second chance. Betsy and I have started to have some intimacy. The sex is okay, but I want to feel the passion again. She tells me that she really needs me and loves me, but time will tell. I'm starting to feel better about myself, as some of the ladies I meet at the gym seem to be a little more interested in me after I told them my story. Wait and see. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.